Not go outside. They can go outside and be accompanied by a support person for the purposes of getting some fresh air, some recreation, but they should limit contact with others as much as possible. These arrangements should also apply to those with chronic illness over 60 and Indigenous persons over the age of 50.
Now, the Prime Minister also announced the states and territories will move to put a temporary ban on evictions from rental properties for people who are facing financial distress.
There's no rule book for this. We are in uncharted territory, but the goal should be shared, and that is a business that can reopen on the other side, not weighed down by excessive debts because of rental arrears. A landlord that has a tenant so they can continue into the future to be able to support the investments that they have made. And banks that have clients, both the landlords and the businesses, the three of them working together to ensure those businesses can get through and be there on the other side.
And we will have a full replay of the Prime Minister's announcement later in the program. Well, Australia's death toll from coronavirus has risen to 16, with almost a third of victims connected to cruise ships. Earlier today, the government unveiled another $1 billion emergency package focused on remote GP consultations, mental health and domestic violence support. Here's senior correspondent Philip Williams.
Despite the deep corona gloom, the first glimmer of light.
This time last week, the rate of increase on cases was up around 25 to 30% a day. That rate now, over the last few days, has fallen to about 13 to 15%.
The Prime Minister announced another $1 billion+ boost, this time for physical and mental health. $669 million will be spent on a new telehealth system. That means, where possible, doctors will consult via FaceTime or on the phone. No need to leave home or for doctors to use scarce protective equipment.
It will significantly reduce the demands on personal protective equipment, PPE. We know PPE is in very much short supply.
Prioritising your mental health is important.
There'll be a $74 million boost for mental health services, with extra money for helplines for those in distress.
It is a down payment on our nation's mental health. We know we will need more than $74 million, but it is a great start.
There'll also be $150 million to combat an expected surge in domestic violence, and $200 million for charities to help feed and shelter the poor. Another day, another billion, and there are plenty more to come. The mother of all packages is still being worked out, aimed at keeping businesses and workers supported and viable. A wage subsidy of some description is almost certain, and this plea from the Prime Minister to employers about to throw in the towel.
I would ask that before you make any further decisions, that you take the opportunity to see the further measures that the government will be announcing.
Get on with it. Put these changes in place, because the longer there's uncertainty, the more the anxiety that's there.
The harder, faster message not embraced by the Prime Minister, who says comparisons with actions in other countries simply don't apply.
I mean, in China, they were welding people's doors shut. That might be okay with them.
For now, some doors in this country remain open, but for how long? Philip Williams, ABC News, Canberra.
Well, the Prime Minister says the early signs at flattening the curve look positive. Since the start of March, we've gone from 28 cases to nearly 4,000, a very steep increase. But when you look at the past week, the rate of increase has dropped from around 25 to 30% per day to the low teens. The PM says that's evidence some of the stricter measures being put in place, including shutting gyms, clubs and pubs and gathering limits, seem to be working at this stage.
We have the cooperation from the Australian people, then that obviously in turn has an impact on how we're managing the spread of the virus.
When it comes to testing, Australia per capita is one of the best in the world. More than 209,000 tests have been carried out, with more than 98% of them coming back negative.
What that really means is that with the 3,809 cases reported to us, we have one of the broadest and most reflective testing regimes.
Australia's death rate is well below 1% of those confirmed cases. Well, in Victoria, a man in his 80s